welcome back to the Village People. In the last video you ended up voting for the Furiens, and so this time we're going to talk about the Furiens as kind of a D&D playable race, talk about their history, their culture, and what sets them apart from other races within D&D 5e. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the Furiens. The Furiens are a race of winged elf-like beings that have arisen from repentant harpies. These intelligent harpies lack the characteristic sadistic nature of traditional harpies. As a result, they are shunned from harpy flocks. If they do remain within their harpy flock, they remain at the lowest status within that flock's pecking order, meaning that they are unlikely to survive for all that long. These characteristics, however, make them easy to spot amongst true harpies. They're noticeably smaller in frame than the true harpies and have more human-like features, tending to have more developed hands and fingers. Furiens have historically organized into smaller communities, reclusive and shy, separate from harpy flocks. They live in dense forests, dangerous cliff tops, and jagged mountaintops, pretty much wherever they can't necessarily be run into by a random group of travelers or conquesting group of adventurers. Furiens build ramshackle structures there, with these environments kind of learning and adjusting to the various environment's needs. If it's in a forest, it's going to be wood, leaning into using the boughs of the trees to their advantage. On a mountaintop, they may try to make it so that it's not noticeable from far enough of a distance, or from above or anywhere, that there is a settlement present. They are not necessarily as adept as something like a gnome might be, however. These environments, however, and these shelters, more importantly, provide comfort for the Furien communities and protection from the elements. These reclusive communities are, at this point, very shy. They are careful to keep their existence a secret, as, for the most part, their resemblance and general proximity to the native territories of normal harpies make them a perceived threat to more civilized races. Their secluded homes serve as their primary protection, but they otherwise have a number of sentries and warriors in a social structure that developed to protect them from exposure. If they are discovered, trespassers are either captured in an attempt to manipulate their opinions, memories, or permanent residence, or anything kind of along those lines where it's not necessarily lethal. But at the very least, well, congrats, you found the settlement and you can never leave. That kind of punishment for end up trespassing. However, more militant groups of these Furiens do end up killing the trespassers to protect a community's secret. This habit has, for the most part, kept the existence of Furiens' homes and homelands a secret, while the existence of their kind has become somewhat well known in terms of existence of intelligent harpies. The rest of the world sees intelligent harpies beginning to evolve, and they're not quite sure that they're different from harpies so much as that they are Furiens themselves. Furien culture is based on one thing: caution. They are effectively overly cautious homebodies, leaving their homes only when it becomes necessary to do so. This has resulted in the development of their community's respect for the arts. Relying primarily on oral history, they have developed a robust means of song and dance that shares the community's stories over longer periods of time. This song and dance often takes place on both land and on the wing, as storytellers that can fly and perform the Feathers Song do so. The Feathers Song shares a number of stories, but the most common of which is a historical retelling of the community and their way of life, as well as concepts such as safety, danger, love, freedom, and responsibility, in whatever the historical stories may be for each of those kind of events. These Feather Song performances allow, otherwise support the social status of the best performers. As a Furien comes of age, they may court a mate, which is primarily done through both this Feather Song and the procurement of some sort of a trinket of great significance. Being avid collectors, the Furiens may take special precautions and trips as stealthy scouting runs to remain appraised of the world around them and aware of what threats may be within their territory. During this time, they may collect whatever items they find interesting, magical or non-magical, to carry home to their communities. During this window, young courtesans may find a suitable trinket for their courting efforts. Scouting efforts are dangerous, however, and take place on a relatively regular basis. During this time, a small team of Furiens are selected to survey the surrounding area, under the watch of a scouting leader, more experienced than most. These scouts are willingly able to have their memory erased of their home, specifically the home and how to reach it, by their tribal leader or elder, through a specialized and secret song that is passed from leader to leader. Each scout, with the exception of the leader, is sent out with no memory of how they might return home. This is done to protect the location of their home from being revealed. Only the scout leader, who hangs back high above in the air above, ends up kind of showing the rest of them the way home on the safe return. This leader of the scouting team being the only one that actually knows how to get home. If a scouting team's leader is killed or lost, or an individual scouting member is lost or captured, they have no way of actually leading a potential threat back home, even on accident. They really have no idea of how to return. Furien's general appearance is humanoid, with flowing hair and feathery wings. These feathery wings can either be sprouting from their back, depending on the kind of general aesthetic look that you want to have, or be simply an extension of their arms, with their hands being located somewhere along the end of the wing or around a joint in the wing, like you would normally see for like a bat. Furiens do otherwise have the following traits by default, and you do gain additional traits based on additional sub-races that are available. You have, as an ability score increase, a +1 to your dexterity score. And as a Furien, you do have the ability to fly. You have a fly speed equal to your walking speed. You also have a set of talons. Your talons, while smaller than that of a normal harpy, are still very capable of doing damage when used correctly. And so you have the ability to augment your unarmed strikes. When you hit with them, your strike deals 1d6 plus your strength modifier slashing damage instead of bludgeoning damage that would be normally used. As a Furien, though, as well, your Harpy ancestors have afforded you a special song, and this song grants you the ability to draw in your target, similar to a siren's song. As an action, you may target one creature and attempt to charm them. They must make a wisdom saving throw equal to 10 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. This is your song DC. On a failure, they become charmed by you. While charmed by you, the target is incapacitated, and if the target creature is more than 5 feet away from you, the target must, on its turn, move towards you by the most direct route, attempting to get to within 5 feet of you. It doesn't avoid opportunity attacks, but before moving into damaging terrain like lava or a pit or anything, it does find a way to circumnavigate, finding the safer route if possible. Whenever it does take damage from a source other than you, the Furien, the target can repeat the saving throw. The charm ends on the end of your next turn. So, this is a wonderful ability if you're able to draw somebody into a danger that they cannot avoid, like off the edge of a ship, or into an actual river of lava, because there isn't any other way to get to you other than wading through. It's just you can't put them in front of a pit that takes, a 5-foot square and then be like, fall in, and then they step around it and then be upset. So there's a little bit of, nuance to how to use the song effectively. Furien subraces are relatively interesting and based off of more birds. There are the Aello Furiens, and Aello Furiens, for the first one that we'll look at, are the most physically powerful of the Furiens, often referred to as Storm Swifts. These Furiens excel in combat, relying on their strength and ferocity to win the day for themselves and their communities. Aello Furiens are most commonly soldiers and warriors within the community. However, they also serve as hunters and can be guards at the edge of their home territory, called to action, in a sense, when needed by the community when a threat should find their home. Aello Furiens typically have stockier builds, with noticeably dense muscles and sharp talons. These Furiens typically bead their feathers with collections of other beads or carved runes or stone or bone, with virtue symbols denoting their past feats. Each bead represents a particular skill that they've embodied in service to their community. Now, Aello Furiens are based off of the much larger raptors within the kind of raptor family. Eagles and hawks to some extent. These kind of Furiens are a little bit stronger in build and able to be a little bit more physically present than other kind of creatures. So you have Aeollan strength. Your enhanced physical prowess has afforded you greater power. You can increase your strength score by 2 and you're automatically proficient in the athletics skill. You also gain a secondary ability called Ferocious Strikes. You know how to take the most advantage of your song when it comes to fighting, relying on your martial prowess to carry you through. When you target a creature charmed by your song with a melee attack, any attack that hits the target is treated as a critical hit. Basically, you can charm them, make them walk straight up to you, and then hit them during this charm effect for an auto crit on your turn, which is extremely powerful if you're able to do it well. The next are Occipede Furiens. Occipede Furiens are the fastest known Furiens. Their speed and perceptive skills make them adept scouts and messengers for their communities. They are often referred to as Swiftwings, and these Furiens serve their communities as both scouts and messengers, but also as adept and skilled performers and hunters. Their signature death-defying kind of dives have earned them a reputation for bravery, but also for foolishness. These Furiens typically have slender bodies and wings with shorter and more slender, delicate talons. The most commonly end up decorating their feathers with long flowing cloths or ribbons to accentuate the speed of their dives. These are based off of, and primarily based off of, more colorful birds that do exist. But within the raptor family, not necessarily colorful, but still a very beautiful bird is the peregrine falcon, known for having its fastest bird record in a stoop, which is kind of a massively fast dive that they end up going at insane speeds to totally demolish whatever prey from massive heights. So, your additional traits as an Occipede Furien is Occipetian Splendor here. Your flair for the dramatic is ingrained into your being. You can increase your charisma by 2, and you're proficient in the acrobatic skill. You also have the Occipetian Stoop. Your lineage's tendency for quick surprise attacks has been honed and developed into a death-defying dive. As an action, a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus, while you are flying, you may choose to take a dive. This dive, furthermore otherwise called a stoop, allows you to deal piercing damage equal to a number of d6 equal to the total of distance of the dive up to 200 feet. Each 10 feet of dive distance increases the total damage by 1d6. You must still roll a hit against the target's AC. If you hit it, the target takes the damage. If you miss, unfortunately you take the damage. And so it's kind of a gamble for, can you actually hit your target? It's extremely powerful. I mean, if you were going to roll, 20d6 worth of damage, you're going to absolutely destroy something. And that something could be yourself, which is why it's kind of a death-defying feat. So you can do it a number of times per long rest, but it might not go well for you. The final type of Furien is the Seleno Furiens. Seleno Furiens are the weakest, but also the quietest of the Furiens that we have known. Their silent flight makes them invaluable when it comes to stealthy reconnaissance missions. And the Seleno Furiens are the smallest of all of the Furiens, standing maybe a foot or more shorter than their Aello and Occipede tribe mates. They do, however, make up for this smaller stature and structure here by being extremely stealthy and uniquely honed in terms of perceptive skills. These Furiens tend to decorate their feathers modestly, instead keeping much of their collection that they do collect at home. Only carrying the necessities, as too much weight or potential noise caused by copious decorations really only serves as a detriment to them. The benefits that you end up gaining as a Seleno Furien is that while your smaller physical stature has allowed you a little bit more proficiency with your intuitive and perceptive skills, you have a very specific way that you can fly. Now, what you end up having is Seleno Wisdom. You may increase your wisdom by 2, and you are proficient in the perception skill. However, you have a enhanced but also modified version of flight. You are, being so small in stature, you have limited flight capabilities compared to your stronger, larger Furian kin, but you are inherently more stealthy. You have expertise in the stealth skill, and you are incapable, however, of using this flying speed if you are wearing medium or heavy armor. So as a base, you are inherently stealthier than almost everybody around you within that tribe. However, because you're so small, if you were to have too much on you, you know that you can't necessarily use your flying speed almost at all, effectively, if at all. And so what you end up having to think about is, well, I need to pack light and plan to pack light. And so effectively, if you end up having too much on your person for, medium or heavy armor, but also a DM could rule if you become encumbered, then you are unable to actually use your flying speed. That's it for the Furiens. In the next video, we'll cover something, right? So that's what I wanted to kind of pause and talk about. I have polls on the channel whenever we do post one of these videos for what we want to cover next time. So let me know in the poll that's in the community tab and in the link in the description when it's available, what of these 3 that you would like to see most. We could look at the Grey Dragonborn, kind of Spartan-built Dragonborn, very capable of fighting and absolutely destroying people based on martial prowess. We could look at the Cyclopeans, the kind of more agrarian Cyclops people that have set aside kind of the anger and fury of their Cyclops kin. And then finally, there is also another Dragonborn. You could end up looking at the Moonstone Dragonborn, should you find that interesting. Kind of a tie-in to Fizzbonds, should it be interesting enough. So, thank you all for watching. I appreciate taking the time to actually look into some of these things, because it's fun to make the homebrew and fun to kind of talk about it. So, either way, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to be good to one another, and have a good rest of the day. Bye.